Today we're going to walk around the Subaru BRZ. I'm going to share with you guys some cool details about this car, even share with you the meaning behind BRZ. We're going to talk all the details, share a couple maybe hidden things that you might not know exist on the BRZ. We're going to talk about all there is to know on it. This is the most non-Subaru the Subaru makes, and it's one of the hardest to get your hands on. They don't produce very many of them. They don't sell very many of them, probably partly because they don't appeal to a large audience, but also it's a very niche type of sports car. This is Subaru's only rear-wheel drive car they make. It's actually a four-seater, believe it or not. It's a 2x2. We'll talk about that here in just a moment. And it is a blast to drive. This is a really fun car. If you get an opportunity to drive one, or maybe you already own one, you know these are really fun. There's some cool things on them that you don't see in any other Subaru model. So we're going to cover that in today's video. Do a walk around, show you some cool things on this car. This one in particular is a 2024 in the limited trim level. So this is the highest trim level as of right now. We're going to be getting the TS very soon. The TS has a couple other odds and ends that are not on the lower trim levels, but in today's video we're just going to be covering some basics, some general details on the BRZ. If you've ever been in the market for the BRZ, you know how much of a pain it is to find one. Also, trying to find one that hasn't been listed above MSRP. With the increase in demand when they did this redesign just a couple years ago, and also the lack of production, they didn't produce very many of these and they still don't. That caused prices to go way up. So whether you were looking for the BRZ or the GR86, the Toyota equivalent to this, you knew they were really tough to come across and to get a good deal on. So if you do own a BRZ, you should be happy to know that your car is going to hold its value really well, because demand is still up for these, and since they're not producing very many of them, they're not flooding the market with them. That tends to make your car hold its value really well. There were some crazy situations back just a year or two ago where we had somebody actually buy one of these new. They paid full MSRP for it, and then just a couple months later they wanted a different color. They ordered a different color from us, and then they sold their old BRZ back to CarMax for a couple grand more than what they originally paid for it new. If you're curious about this particular trim level and the price point that you would expect to pay, this is MSRP at $34,765. It doesn't have any optional equipment on it. It's just your standard limited trim level in the automatic transmission. You can actually get a BRZ with the manual transmission, as you should be able to with any sports car, but this is one of only two Subarus that you can still get with a manual transmission, the other one being the four-door sedan, the WRX. Now for a bit of Subaru trivia. I'll have to admit, this is something that I didn't know, or at least I forgot in some of the training that Subaru has sent me over the years on the BRZ. So my question to you is, what does BRZ stand for? What does the acronym BRZ actually stand for? Well, it stands for Boxer Engine Rear-Wheel Drive Zenith, and Zenith means highest point, so I'll let you interpret that however you want, but that's what BRZ stands for if you weren't already familiar. I personally didn't remember that until I started doing some research again on this video for you guys, but it's kind of cool to know the background and what some of these cars' meanings have behind them. Before I show you guys some of the goodies on the inside, because there are some really cool things, there's a track mode setting I want to show you guys, some things that are kind of buried in the menus. We're going to change up and show you how some of that works. But before we get to that, I want to talk about the exterior design. So as you already know, this was co-produced with Toyota, has a lot of Toyota characteristics, but the engine, it's still the Boxer engine. It's a 2.4 liter Boxer engine. I think it has 228 horsepower and 170-ish or 180-ish pound-feet of torque. I'll put the exact specs on the screen here. When you design a sports car, of course, the powertrain is a key focus. Performance with the engine, the transmission, and those components is key. But one area that Subaru also focused on heavily with this vehicle is aerodynamics and weight distribution. So this BRZ has among the lowest centers of gravity for a production vehicle, aside from getting into like a Lamborghini or something like that. So it sits incredibly low to the ground, has one of the lowest centers of gravity. that really helps with weight distribution when you're taking turns, when you're at speeds. You have more stability with this vehicle. And also, when you see these large air ducts on the front grille, these are actually functional. So air actually feeds through here, goes out the back into the wheel well, and then slides down the side of the body panel and off the rear. You'll notice these little fins on the rear wheel wells and this ducktail rear spoiler that is attached to the rear trunk lid. That helps increase stability. It's increasing downforce and increased stability at speeds. This car, they've designed it where you can daily drive it, but you can also take it to the track and have some fun with it on the weekends. Not only was airflow, aerodynamics, and a low center of gravity a key focus for the BRZ, but also weight reduction. I mean, it doesn't even come with a spare tire. Instead, you get a can of air. And that's just how it is. Like I said at the beginning of this video, that this is the most non-Subaru Subaru that you can get. It's not designed for off-roading and ground clearance and camping. This is designed for fun, spirited daily driving as well as track days. And although these seats do not have much room back in the second row, it's probably not very functional for an adult to sit back here. Small children or even car seats can go back here. So the BRZ does have car seat anchor points. So if you are trying to convince your wife that you really need a BRZ and it can still be a family car, well, you do have the argument that it does have car seat hookups. And for as small as the car is, I'm surprised at how much loading space it has back here in the trunk. You can fold down the second seat and then have a flat loading floor to load up your skis, your snowboard, or anything that may be longer that you otherwise wouldn't be able to load without that second row folding down. So let's go ahead and turn the car on. I'll show you guys some cool settings within this menu, within the gauge cluster. And something also cool, watch the gauge cluster whenever we turn this on. I don't know, I thought that was kind of cool. It says BRZ. This is a fully digital display. This is Subaru's first fully digital display. A little bit of a teaser for what's to come, because in the new generation Subaru models, we are supposed to start seeing a fully digital display. Maybe not on all trims, but it is going to be optional on those higher trim levels. Now I want to show you all how to adjust the digital display to customize this and also put the car in track mode if you want to do so. So to get to the settings to change the display, we're going to use these controls over here. So you're going to use the left arrow, right arrow to click left and right, up and down to go up and down on the menu, and then also the center button there will be your select. So we're going to click on the right. We're going to go all the way over. We want to go all the way over to the gear. It's going to say eyesight. Then you want to click down until you get to screen settings. Then we click select right there. And then we can go in here and turn on the rev indicator. So that will change this from the, so here's what it looks like without. It's the white with the red at your peak, and then the white, yellow, and red. You can go in here and customize what RPMs you want that indicator to show up on the screen. So just to give you an idea, we can click on that and we can scroll down. Maybe we just want it at 2,000 RPMs. I'm just going to show you this as an example. So 2,000 is the minimum. We're going to click select. Make sure you click that center key to select, otherwise it doesn't save that setting. You can have the buzzer on if you want. I'm going to show you what this does with the buzzer, but then I'm going to turn it off because it's kind of annoying, but I can see how it'd be helpful if you are on the track. So let's rev it. So as soon as you go above 2,000 RPMs, it lights up yellow on the dash and it beeps. We're going to turn that beep off. And let's change this. Let's go, maybe let's do 3,000 RPMs for our shift point. And then to turn on your track mode, you click and hold the track button here. So you can't just tap it, you have to click and hold it. And it changes this. So it turns your traction control off and it gives you a linear view of your RPMs, which I think is incredibly helpful if you are driving. So let's go ahead, let's take off and I'll show you what this looks like. Now you can drive in regular drive mode if you go all the way down, and this is just gonna be like a regular automatic where it shifts up for you. But if you wanna do some more spirited driving and if you are on the track, maybe you do want to put it in manual mode and you want to use these paddle shifters over here to upshift or downshift on the left. So let's show you how that works. We're going to put it into manual mode, just kicks over, it switches over and it tells you on the dash. So here's what it looks like, regular drive mode. Here's what it looks like in manual mode. And we are going to take off over here and show you what this looks like on the display when using this RPM indicator. So as soon as you hit 3,000 RPMs, it lights up that orange yellow color. And what's nice about the manual mode, this will downshift for you automatically. So let's go ahead and turn over here. You'll notice as we slow down, the car downshifts for us. So unlike your traditional manual where you would otherwise have to downshift, this will downshift for you. It just won't upshift for you whenever you have it in that manual mode setting. And the turning radius on this thing is wild. I mean, it's a tiny car, it's got a short wheelbase, but just turning it there, I mean, you can turn it like nothing. It handles really well. And then whenever you want to turn track mode off, all you have to do is click right here to turn it off there. It actually switches back to regular mode, or you just tap your track mode button again. It'll turn that back to normal drive mode. Overall, this car is a really fun car to drive. I think if anybody's looking for something that is a good daily, that's good on gas, but also something just really enjoyable to drive and a little bit different from your typical Subaru, this would be the way to go. Of course, it's not our STI, and I know a lot of people would like to see an STI option for the BRZ, maybe a turbo, but that's not the reality of what we get, at least in this price point. And overall, I think Subaru's done a really good job of this. But don't just listen to me, go try to drive one for yourself. I know they're hard to find, but if you can find one, maybe at a dealer you can drive, or maybe even a used one, I think within the last few years when they did the redesign, it added a lot of good qualities that I think people will be very happy to have, especially if you're looking for a driver's car. I hope you all enjoyed today's video. I know it's a little bit different. It's not the typical Subaru Outback or Subaru Forester that I typically film with, but it is a really cool Subaru nonetheless. Hope you all like this. I know many of you have asked for a BRZ video for a long time. It's not often we get one. We finally have one on the ground to film with that hasn't been sold, so I can actually drive it and showcase it. So I hope you guys appreciate that and enjoyed today's video. If you have any questions, as always, leave those comments down below. Hope you have a great day, and I will see you in the next one.